Most people go through life silently wishing for better opportunities, more recognition, or the help they desperately need. Yet they never ask. Why? Because fear of rejection, fear of appearing weak, or fear of being judged keeps them silent. But here is the truth. Everything you want, whether it's in your career, your relationships, or your personal growth, is often just one powerful request away. The ability to ask clearly, confidently, and persistently is one of the most overlooked tools of success. From entrepreneurs raising capital, to leaders inspiring teams, to ordinary people seeking kindness or support, asking is not just an act, it's an art. And when mastered, it can change your entire life. This audiobook is not about wishful thinking or blind hope. It's about learning the strategies, psychology, and courage to ask for what you deserve and actually receive it. Over the next chapters you will discover how to overcome fear, frame your requests persuasively, navigate rejection gracefully, and build the confidence to step into a life of abundance and possibility. Chapter 1: Why most people never ask and pay the price. The very first step to mastering the power of asking is to confront a difficult truth. Most people never ask for what they want. They stay quiet, hoping that others will notice their efforts, reward their sacrifices, or somehow read their minds. But life doesn't work that way. Opportunities rarely fall into your lap without action. Success is not handed to those who wait. It comes to those who are bold enough to ask. Think about the workplace. An employee might work overtime, give more effort than required, and consistently perform well, yet their salary remains stagnant. Why? Because they never asked for a raise. In relationships, someone might give love, support, and loyalty, yet feel unappreciated or neglected. Why? Because they never asked for what they needed. In friendships or communities, people struggle silently with problems, yet solutions remain out of reach. Why? Because they never asked for help. Not asking has a cost. It keeps you stuck in a life that is smaller than what you deserve. It leads to resentment, burnout, and missed opportunities. And the tragedy is that the barrier is not external, it's internal. The barrier is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of hearing no, fear of appearing selfish, fear of losing respect. But here's the paradox. Not asking guarantees you won't receive. Research shows that people are more willing to say yes than we assume. A study by psychologists revealed that when people made direct requests, strangers were far more likely to agree than the requester had predicted. This means we often underestimate the generosity, openness, and willingness of others. We silence ourselves before the world has the chance to respond. Why is this so common? Part of the answer lies in childhood. Many of us were raised with messages like, "Don't be greedy," or "Be grateful for what you have." Asking in this context was painted as selfish or impolite. Over time we internalized the belief that it's better to stay quiet than to risk seeming demanding. Society reinforces this, rewarding those who appear humble, while quietly overlooking those who never make their needs known. But here is the truth. Asking is not selfish. Asking is a declaration of self-worth. It's saying, "I believe I deserve more, and I'm willing to claim it." It's not about entitlement. It's about clarity. The people who advance in their careers are often not the ones who work the hardest, but the ones who ask for promotions, raises, and opportunities. The people who build strong relationships are not always the ones who sacrifice the most, but the ones who ask clearly for love, attention, and respect. The turning point begins with awareness. Once you recognize how much you've lost by not asking, you start to realize how much you could gain by speaking up. Imagine the new doors that could open if you simply asked for mentorship, for partnership, for resources, or for guidance. Imagine the weight that could lift if you asked for support instead of carrying everything alone. In this book, you will learn not only why asking is powerful but also how to do it effectively, with confidence, tact, and persistence. But first, you must make a decision. No more silence. No more waiting for someone else to notice. You must decide that your voice, your needs, and your goals matter enough to be expressed. Asking is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And the moment you embrace that truth, your life begins to expand. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Asking. Unlocking the Hidden Barriers. If asking were as simple as opening your mouth and making a request, everyone would already be doing it. But asking involves much more than words. It is deeply psychological, tied to how you see yourself, how you perceive others, and how you interpret rejection. To truly master the art of asking, you must first understand the mental walls that stop you, and then learn how to dismantle them. The fear of rejection. Rejection is one of the most primal human fears. Evolution has wired us to crave acceptance, because belonging to a group once meant survival. Being rejected, on the other hand, could mean being cast out and left vulnerable. This instinct still runs deep. That's why asking feels risky. It exposes us to the possibility of being turned down. But here's what you must realize. Rejection is not fatal. It may sting. It may bruise your ego. But it is not the end of the story. In fact, rejection often carries information. It shows you where to adjust, whom to ask differently, or where better opportunities lie. The most successful people are not those who avoid rejection, but those who survive it, learn from it, and keep asking anyway. Consider entrepreneurs. For every yes they get from an investor, they might endure dozens of no's. Authors receive rejection letters before their books become bestsellers. Job seekers face countless refusals before landing the right role. The difference between those who succeed and those who quit lies in their relationship with rejection. If you see no as the end, you stop. But if you see no as a stepping stone to yes, you keep moving. The myth of self-sufficiency. Another mental barrier is the belief that asking for help shows weakness. Many people pride themselves on being independent, self-reliant, and capable of doing everything on their own. While independence is valuable, total self-sufficiency is an illusion. Nobody achieves great things in isolation. Every successful person you admire, from business leaders to athletes to artists, had mentors, supporters, and allies along the way. When you refuse to ask, you don't appear stronger. You simply cut yourself off from resources that could accelerate your growth. True strength lies in knowing when to seek support. Asking is not an admission of weakness. It's a demonstration of wisdom. It signals that you value efficiency, collaboration, and growth more than ego. 3. The fear of being a burden. Many people hesitate to ask because they don't want to bother others. They assume their request will be an inconvenience. Yet surprisingly, research shows that people often feel good when they are asked for help. Being asked gives them a sense of importance, of being needed and trusted. Think of the last time someone came to you for advice or assistance. Chances are, you felt honored that they valued your input. Helping others creates connection. When you ask, you're not just taking. You're giving someone the chance to contribute, to feel useful, and to strengthen your relationship with you. 4. The power of clarity. One of the reasons people fail to get what they ask for is vagueness. They drop hints, beat around the bush, or make half-hearted requests. But clarity is powerful. The human brain likes precision. The clearer and more specific your request, the easier it is for someone to respond. Instead of saying, "I need some help," say, "Can you review this report by Thursday?" Instead of saying, "I'd like more opportunities," say, I'd like to be considered for the leadership role in the upcoming project. Specificity removes confusion, increases your chances of a yes, and shows that you've thought carefully about what you want. 5. The role of self-worth. At the deepest level, asking is about how much you believe you deserve. If you secretly doubt your worth, you'll shrink your requests or avoid them altogether. You'll think, why would they listen to me? Or I probably don't deserve this anyway. But the truth is, you are worthy. Your needs, dreams and goals matter just as much as anyone else's. When you step into self-worth, your energy shifts. You ask with more confidence, and confidence is magnetic. People are more likely to respond positively when they sense you value yourself. Reframing asking as opportunity. To overcome these psychological barriers, you must change how you view asking. Don't see it as a risk of loss. See it as an opportunity for gain. Every ask opens a door. Even if that door leads to a no, it may redirect you to a better one. A simple shift in perspective can transform your willingness to ask. Instead of thinking, what if they say no? Start thinking, what if they say yes? Instead of fearing rejection, start anticipating possibilities. The ripple effect of asking. Here's something most people overlook. When you ask, you don't just change your own life, you change the lives of others. A single request can spark a chain reaction. A student asking for mentorship may one day become a leader who inspires thousands. An employee asking for a chance may prove themselves and innovate in ways that benefit an entire company. A person asking for help may break a cycle of silence and encourage others to do. Chapter 3. The strategy of asking. How to do it effectively. Knowing that asking is powerful and overcoming the fears behind it is only the beginning. True transformation comes when you learn how to ask strategically. It's not just about blurting out your needs or desires, it's about asking in a way that maximizes your chances of getting a positive response, while also building trust, respect, and stronger relationships. This chapter dives into the practical side of asking. The timing, the framing, the delivery, and the follow-up. When you master these elements, asking becomes less of a gamble and more of a skill you can refine and rely on. Timing is everything. The right request at the wrong time often leads to a no. Timing shapes how your ask is received. For example, asking your boss for a raise during a stressful company crisis will likely backfire, not because you don't deserve it, but because the moment isn't right. Strategic asking means paying attention to context. Look for when the other person is calm, open, and available. Observe their body language, energy, and environment. If they're distracted, rushing, or under pressure, your ask may feel like an intrusion. But when the atmosphere is receptive, your chances of success increase dramatically. Sometimes timing also means preparing the ground beforehand. Instead of asking abruptly, you build rapport, demonstrate value, and plant seeds. Then, when the moment comes, your ask feels natural rather than forced. 2. Be clear, simple, and direct. Clarity is the oxygen of asking. Too often people complicate their requests with vague wording, over-explaining or apologizing too much. A clear, direct ask communicates confidence and respect for the other person's time. For example, instead of saying, "I was wondering if maybe you might consider helping me out with this thing I've been struggling with if you're not too busy," say, "Could you help me edit this report before Friday?" Notice the difference. The second approach is shorter, easier to process, and more likely to get a straight answer. Strategic asking means removing clutter from your words and focusing on the essence of what you want. Frame your ask in terms of value. One of the most effective ways to get a yes is to highlight how your request benefits the other person as well. People are more willing to respond when they see the value or mutual gain in your ask. For instance, if you're asking for a promotion, don't just frame it as what you want. Frame it as how your new role will help the company grow, solve problems, or create results. If you're asking for collaboration, show how it will benefit both sides. This doesn't mean manipulating people. It means being mindful of how you present your request. When people see alignment between your goals and theirs, resistance melts away. 4. Use the power of specificity. General requests often fade into the background. Specific requests grab attention. Asking someone to support your work is vague. Asking them to share your article with 3 people in their network this week is actionable. Specificity gives your request weight. It helps the other person clearly understand what you're asking for and makes it easier for them to follow through. When your ask is concrete, it shifts from being an abstract idea to a clear action step. Ask with confidence, not apology. Many people weaken their asks by apologizing or shrinking their tone. They begin with phrases like "I hate to bother you," or "This might be too much to ask," but these words signal insecurity and lower the chances of a positive response. Instead, speak with calm assurance. You don't need arrogance, but you do need confidence. Remember, asking is not begging. You are offering an opportunity for connection, collaboration, or exchange. Approach your request with the belief that it is valid and worthy. Confidence doesn't just come from words. It comes from body language, tone, and presence. Eye contact, steady breathing, and a calm voice all send the signal that your ask is serious and respectful. Prepare for different outcomes. A skilled asker understands that not every request will result in a yes, and that's okay. By mentally preparing for all outcomes, you protect yourself from discouragement and increase your resilience. If you hear no, don't retreat into shame. Instead, thank the person and leave the door open for future opportunities. Sometimes no simply means not right now. Your respectful handling of rejection may turn into a yes later. If you hear yes, don't take it for granted. Express gratitude immediately and follow through with action. Gratitude not only honors the person, but also builds goodwill for future asks. 7. The art of repeated asking. Persistence is a hidden strength in asking. Many successful requests are not granted the first time, but after repeated, respectful follow-ups. The key is to balance persistence with tact. Too much insistence feels pushy, but too little persistence leaves opportunities unrealized. Think of salespeople, writers, or negotiators. They often ask more than once, each time refining their approach, adjusting their tone, or offering new context. Each attempt increases familiarity and comfort, making the eventual yes more likely. Asking as a habit, not an event. Finally, asking should not be seen as a one-off event, but as an ongoing practice. The more you make asking part of your daily life, whether small or big, the easier it becomes. Start with low-stakes asks. Request feedback, seek opinions, or ask for small favors. Over time, your confidence and skill grow, preparing you for larger, life-changing requests. This chapter reveals that asking is both an art and a science. The strategy lies in how you frame your words, choose your timing, express your confidence, and handle responses. When you master this, asking shifts from being a fearful gamble into a deliberate, empowering tool. Chapter 4. Building the confidence to ask boldly. You now understand the psychology of asking and the strategies that make it effective. But there is a missing link: confidence. Without it, even the best strategies collapse. A lack of confidence makes your voice shaky, your words uncertain, and your energy hesitant. People respond not only to what you ask, but to how you ask. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not about pushing people or demanding what you want. True confidence is quiet strength, a belief in your worth, a calm assurance that your request matters, and a steady presence that makes others feel secure in saying yes. This chapter explores how to build that kind of confidence. Step by step, understand where confidence comes from. Confidence is not something you are either born with or without. It is built through consistent action. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you make an ask, no matter how small, you are strengthening your confidence muscle. Start small. Ask for feedback on a project. Ask for someone's opinion. Ask for a seat at a crowded cafe. These small requests may seem trivial, but each success trains your mind to believe, I can ask, and I can handle the response. With repetition, what once felt terrifying becomes second nature. 2. Replace doubt with worthiness. One of the greatest killers of confidence is self-doubt. You may think, do I really deserve this? Or am I asking for too much? But here's a truth you must hold on to. You deserve to ask simply because you are human, and your needs, goals, and dreams are valid. Confidence grows when you shift from I hope they'll give this to me to I am worthy of asking. Even if the answer is no, your worth does not diminish. Confidence comes from separating your identity from the response. A refusal does not mean you are unworthy. It simply means this particular opportunity was not the right fit. 3. Practice assertive communication. Confident asking is rooted in assertiveness, a communication style that is respectful yet firm. Assertiveness is the middle ground between passivity and aggression. Passive askers are timid, apologetic, and often ignored. Aggressive askers are forceful, demanding, and often resisted. Assertive askers, however, communicate with balance. They express their needs clearly, while respecting the rights of others. For example, passive, I guess if you're not too busy, maybe you could look at this. Aggressive, you need to look at this now. Assertive, I'd appreciate it if you could review this report by Thursday. It would really help me move forward. Notice the difference. Assertive language is clear, respectful, and confident. It invites cooperation instead of resistance. 4. Harness the power of body language. Your body often speaks louder than your words. When you slouch, avoid eye contact, or fidget nervously, your body communicates insecurity, even if your words are strong. To ask confidently, align your body language with your message. Stand or sit upright with an open posture. Make eye contact that is steady but not intimidating. Use gestures naturally, not excessively. Speak at a calm, measured pace instead of rushing. These subtle signals create an aura of confidence, helping others trust you and take your request seriously. 5. Reframe rejection as data. Fear of rejection is one of the biggest confidence destroyers, but confident people reframe rejection. Instead of seeing it as failure, they treat it as feedback. Each no gives you information. Maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe the request was unclear. Maybe the person lacked the resources. This information helps you refine your next ask. Imagine a scientist testing hypotheses. When an experiment doesn't work, they don't see it as failure. They see it as data, guiding them closer to a breakthrough. Adopt the same mindset with asking. Each rejection teaches you something, and each lesson builds confidence for the next attempt. Build momentum with small wins. Confidence is easier to sustain when you create momentum. Start with achievable asks, and let each win fuel your courage for bigger requests. For example, if you want to eventually ask for a promotion, begin by asking for smaller responsibilities that demonstrate your initiative. Each time someone says yes, your confidence expands. Momentum also makes asking addictive in a positive way. Once you realize how many doors open simply by asking, your fear begins to fade. You stop hesitating and start acting boldly. 7. Anchor yourself in preparation. Confidence thrives on preparation. When you prepare thoroughly, you reduce uncertainty and strengthen your presence. For example, if you're asking for funding, know your numbers inside and out. If you're asking for a role, be ready to highlight your achievements. Preparation creates the foundation for confidence, because it removes the shaky feeling of being caught off guard. Askers who walk into a room unprepared often compensate with either nervousness or false bravado, but those who prepare walk in with calm authority. They don't need to shout or demand. Their quiet readiness speaks volumes. 8. Visualize the yes. Another powerful tool is visualize. Before you make your ask, take a moment to imagine it going well. Picture the other person listening attentively, nodding and agreeing. Visualization primes your brain for success. It lowers anxiety, steadies your breathing, and boosts your confidence. Athletes use this technique before competitions, and you can use it before any important ask. Knowing. Build in a dialogue that supports you. What you tell yourself matters. If your inner dialogue is filled with self-criticism, it will erode your confidence. Instead, cultivate affirming self-talk. Replace "they probably won't say yes" with "I will give them the opportunity to say yes." Replace "I'm not good enough" with "I am prepared and capable." Confidence is not just about what others see. It's also about what you believe within. When your inner voice encourages you, your outer presence reflects strength. 10. Remember the ripple effect of confidence. When you ask with confidence, you don't just benefit yourself, you inspire others. Your courage gives silent permission to those around you to also ask for what they want. Confidence is contagious. Each bold ask becomes part of a larger movement of people stepping into their worth and claiming opportunities. Confidence is not something you wait to feel before asking. It is something you build through the very act of ask. Each time you step forward, prepared, clear, assertive and calm, you prove to yourself that you can do it. Confidence is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Chapter 5. The Art of Asking in Real Life. By now you understand the foundations of asking, the psychology, the strategies, and the confidence behind it. But theory is not enough. To truly master the art of asking, you need to see how it plays out in real life. In careers, businesses and personal relationships. This chapter dives deep into practical everyday applications of asking, showing you exactly how it can transform opportunities, open doors and create results you never thought possible. Asking in your career. Unlocking growth opportunities. Most people assume that hard work alone will get them ahead. While work ethic is essential, silent effort is often invisible. Success in a career doesn't come only from what you do. It comes from what you ask for. Asking for feedback. Instead of waiting for your boss to point out your strengths and weaknesses, ask directly, "Can you share one thing I could do better this quarter?" This simple question not only gives you valuable insights but also shows initiative. Asking for responsibilities. If you want to be considered for leadership roles, ask for projects that stretch your skills. Volunteer for challenges others avoid. When you ask for responsibility, you demonstrate ambition and readiness. Asking for promotion or pay raise. This is where many people hesitate, but it is one of the most critical asks in a career. A promotion or raise rarely comes unprompted. Your employer may assume you are content unless you are. Preparedness is key. Present your achievements, quantify your value and ask with confidence. Those who dare to ask in their careers move faster than those who wait to be noticed. Asking in business. Negotiating and expanding. Entrepreneurs, business owners and freelancers live in a world where asking is survival. Whether it's asking investors for funding, suppliers for better terms, or customers for referrals, every business thrives on the courage to ask. Negotiating deals. The difference between a profitable contract and a mediocre one often lies in the ask. Confident negotiators don't hesitate to request better terms, extended timelines, or added benefits. Seeking mentorship. Many entrepreneurs dream of having mentors but never ask. Reaching out with a respectful and concise request can open the door to valuable guidance. A simple "I admire your work and would love to learn from your experience. Could we connect for 20 minutes?" can change the trajectory of your business. Attracting customers. In sales, asking for the sale is the turning point. Many sellers explain features, but never ask, "Would you like to move forward with this today?" That direct question often makes the difference between losing a customer and closing the deal. Every successful business person understands this truth. You don't get what you don't ask for. C. Asking in personal life, relationships and support. The art of asking extends beyond money and careers. It touches relationships, family and friendship. Too many conflicts and disappointments in personal life stem from unspoken expectation. Asking for respectful boundaries. If someone crosses your boundaries, asking directly and respectfully is more effective than staying silent and resentful. For example, "I'd appreciate it if you call before dropping by. It helps me prepare." Asking for help. Many people suffer silently because they don't want to seem weak. But asking for help is not weakness. It is strength. Whether it's asking a friend to watch your children for an hour, or asking a colleague to cover a task, it builds connection and trust. Healthy relationships thrive when people ask openly, instead of assuming or demanding. C. 4. The timing of your ask. Knowing what to ask is powerful, but knowing when to ask is equally important. Timing can determine whether you get a yes or a no. Ask after you've demonstrated value. C. Ask when the other person is receptive, not stressed or distracted. C. Ask after listening first, so your request feels considerate rather than self-centered. For example, an employee who asks for a raise right after completing a major project has better chances than one who asks during a time of company cuts. Timing is strategy. C. 5. Overcoming the fear of being too much. One of the silent killers of asking is the fear of being a burden. People think, "If I ask, I'll annoy them. I'll seem greedy. I'll look pushy." But consider this. Everyone is constantly balancing their own needs and priorities. Most people appreciate clarity. Asking saves them the guesswork of figuring out what you want. Imagine a friend inviting you for dinner. If you want vegetarian food but don't say anything, you end up disappointed and your friend feels confused. But if you ask politely, "Could we make sure there's a vegetarian option?" your friend appreciates your honesty. Asking is rarely a burden when done respectfully. C. The power of follow-up. Sometimes your first ask doesn't get a response. People get busy. Messages get lost. Priorities shift. A confident asker doesn't interpret silence as rejection. They follow up. In careers, just checking if you had a chance to review my proposal from last week. In business, I know your schedule is packed, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on my offer. Polite persistence often turns silence into action. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is often that one asked again. C. The chain reaction of asking. When you ask once and receive, you gain not only what you requested but also the courage to ask again. This creates a chain reaction. Over time, small asks lead to bigger ones, and each yes compounds your confidence. For example, asking for feedback builds skill. Asking for responsibility builds visibility. Asking for a raise builds financial stability. Asking for leadership builds influence. Each step builds on the previous one, and before you know it, you've climbed to heights that once felt unreachable. 8. Asking as a daily practice. The most successful people don't see asking as a rare event. They see it as a daily practice. Every day presents opportunities to ask for information, for clarity, for opportunity, for support. Those who recognize and seize these moments create momentum in life. Try this challenge. For the next 7 days, make at least one intentional ask each day. Keep it simple. A favor, feedback, or an opportunity. By the end of the week, notice how many doors have opened that would have remained closed if you had stayed silent. Asking is not about luck. It is about courage, clarity, and persistence applied in real-life situations, whether in business, career, or relationships. Those who ask boldly and respectfully move forward while others remain stuck. Chapter 6. Mastering the difficult ask. By now you've seen how asking works in everyday life. From careers, to business, to personal relationships. But what about the hard asks? What about those moments when you need something so significant, so life-changing, that the thought of voicing it fills you with fear? These are the moments that separate average lives from extraordinary ones. Mastering the art of the difficult ask is the key to breaking barriers, creating wealth, and transforming relationships. What makes an ask difficult? A difficult ask usually has one or more of these elements. High stakes. The outcome could significantly impact your career, finances, or reputation. Power imbalance. You're asking someone who has more influence, money, or authority. Personal vulnerability. The request exposes your fears, insecurities, or deepest needs. Uncertainty. You don't know the person well, or the outcome feels unpredictable. For example, asking an investor for funding, requesting a salary that doubles your current pay, or telling a loved one about a boundary you need them to respect. These feel daunting, because so much is on the line. Preparing for the big ask. The secret to mastering difficult asks lies in preparation. The more prepared you are, the more confidence you project. Preparation involves 3 steps. Research. Know the other person's needs, preferences, and history. If you're pitching an investor, study what industries they fund. If you're asking your boss for a raise, know the company's performance and salary benchmarks. Clarity. Be specific about what you want. Vague requests confuse people. Instead of "I'd like more support," say "I need an assistant for 20 hours a week to handle scheduling." Rehearsal. Difficult asks shouldn't be improvised. Practice your request out loud until it feels natural. Confidence comes from repetition. Preparation transforms fear into focus. 3. Building authority before you ask. The hardest asks become easier when you've built authority and credibility beforehand. If you've consistently shown value, reliability, and professionalism, your ask carries weight. Think of it like a bank account. Every time you deliver results, help someone, or keep a promise, you make a deposit into the trust account. When you make a big ask, you're making a withdrawal. If your account is full, people will gladly give. If it's empty, they hesitate. So before you make that bold request, build credibility in small, consistent ways. 4. The psychology of power dynamics. Most difficult asks involve power dynamics. Asking someone who seems above you. This creates intimidation. But here's the truth. Powerful people are still people. They respect boldness, clarity, and efficiency. They value their time. Get to the point quickly. Don't waste energy on long-winded explanations. They respect courage. If you are too timid, they lose interest. A clear, confident ask stands out. They often like to give. Many successful people enjoy mentoring, supporting, or investing when they see genuine potential. Instead of thinking, "They're above me," shift your mindset to "They have resources I need, and I have value they may need in return." Framing the ask. The win-win principle. The most effective difficult asks are framed not just around what you want, but what the other person gains too. This is called the win-win principle. Examples. Say, If you invest, you'll gain early access to a fast-growing market with high margins. The win-win approach makes your request harder to reject because it appeals to mutual benefit. 6. Handling no without losing confidence. Not every difficult ask will get a yes, but rejection is not the end. It's often the beginning of negotiation. Here's how to handle it. Stay calm. Don't show disappointment or frustration. Thank them for their time. Seek feedback. Ask, can you share what's holding you back? Their answer can guide your next move. Reframe. If the big ask gets rejected, scale down. For example, if now isn't the right time for full funding, could we start with a smaller test investment? Leave the door open. A no today could become a yes tomorrow. People remember how gracefully you handled rejection. 7. Real-world examples of bold asks. The raise that doubled a salary. An employee researched industry benchmarks, presented her contributions, and asked for at first, her boss said no, but after she calmly highlighted how her output exceeded expectations, the company offered her 40% more, something she'd never have received without asking. The startup funded on the spot. A young entrepreneur asked an investor for. The investor laughed and asked, "Why should I?" The entrepreneur replied with a clear 5-minute pitch, showing both the market potential and how the investor would profit. The investor wrote the check. The personal boundary respected. A woman who constantly felt drained by her friends' unannounced visits finally asked, "I value our friendship, but I need advance notice before visits." Instead of ruining the friendship, this strengthened it. Every bold ask creates a ripple. The role of persistence in difficult asks. Big asks often require persistence. The first answer might be no, the second answer may be, and the third yes. Those who succeed are not those who asked once and quit, but those who refined their approach and kept going. Consider J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, 12 publishers rejected her manuscript. She kept asking until one said yes. That persistence turned her into one of the most successful authors in history. 9. Turning fear into fuel. Fear before a big ask is normal. In fact, it's a sign that what you're asking for matters. The key is not eliminating fear, but channeling it into energy. Reframe the fear. Instead of thinking, "I might fail," think, "This ask could change my life." Visualize success. Before making the request, imagine them nodding and agreeing. This mental rehearsal boosts confidence. Accept the worst-case scenario. Ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? Often, it's simply a no. Once you accept that, the fear shrinks. The courage to ask big. The most important lesson of this chapter is simple. Small asks create small outcomes. Big asks create big outcomes. If you only ask for safe, easy things, your life will remain safe and small. But when you dare to ask for bold, extraordinary things, you give life the chance to surprise you. History's great leaders, inventors, and entrepreneurs were not afraid of difficult asks. They asked for funding, for support, for belief, and those asks reshaped the world. A difficult ask is not just about getting what you want. It is about who you become when you dare to voice it. Every bold request builds courage, resilience, and power. Mastering this art separates those who settle from those who soar. Chapter 7. The Power of Relentless Asking. If Chapter 6 was about handling the difficult ask, then this chapter is about mastering the art of persistence. Because the truth is, no matter how prepared, polished, or confident you are, you will face rejection. You will face closed doors, unanswered emails, and cold stares. But here's the secret. The people who win in life are not those who hear yes the first time. They are the ones who keep asking until the door finally opens. Why persistence matters in asking. Persistence is not about being annoying or pushy. It's about refusing to let temporary rejection define your future. A single no often means, "Not yet. The timing isn't right. Not this way. The way you asked wasn't convincing. Not enough proof. The other person isn't ready to take the risk. None of these are permanent. With time, clarity, and repetition, the same no can turn into a resounding yes. 2. Reframing rejection. Rejection is one of the main reasons people stop asking. They take a no as a judgment on their worth. But rejection is rarely personal. It's situational. The investor may have no available capital. The employer may be locked in budget constraints. The person you asked for help may be battling their own struggles. When you reframe rejection as information, not condemnation, it becomes fuel. Every no gives you clues about how to ask better next time. 3. The science of repetition. Psychology tells us that humans are wired to respond better to repeated exposure. This is called the mere exposure effect. The more familiar something becomes, the more comfortable and acceptable it feels. When you ask once, you plant a seed. When you ask again, you water it. When you follow up, you shine sunlight. Eventually, the seed sprouts. That's how persistence works. 4. Stories of relentless asking. Colonel Sanders. Before Kentucky Fried Chicken became a global giant, Harland Sanders was rejected over 1,000 times as he tried to sell his fried chicken recipe to restaurants. Over 1,000 rejections. But he kept asking. Finally, someone said yes and KFC was born. Thomas Edison. He made over 1,000 failed attempts to create the light bulb. Each failure was a rejection from reality, but each one taught him how to refine his process until the breakthrough came. Sylvester Stallone. When trying to sell his Rocky script, Stallone was rejected repeatedly. Studios offered him money for the script, but refused to let him play the lead role. He kept asking, refusing every offer until one studio finally agreed. That persistence made him a global star. These examples prove one thing. It only takes one yes to change everything. 5. How to persist without annoying people. Persistence is powerful, but only if done wisely. You don't want to come across as desperate or irritating. The art is in balancing determination with respect. Change the approach. Don't keep asking the same way. Adjust your wording, presentation, or angle. Add value each time. When you follow up, bring something new, an update, a new idea, or proof of progress. Respect boundaries. If someone says, "I can't right now," honor that, but leave the door open by saying, "Would it be okay if I check back in 3 months?" Persistence with strategy keeps the relationship intact, while increasing your chances of success. The role of timing. Sometimes the difference between rejection and acceptance is simply timing. The first time you ask, the person may not be ready. The second time, their situation may have shifted. The third time, the stars may align. Think of persistence as planting seeds across season. Not every seed sprouts at once, but if you keep planting, eventually the harvest comes. 7. Building emotional resilience. Persistence requires resilience. Repeated rejection can bruise your ego if you don't strengthen your mindset. Here's how to build emotional toughness. Detach from the outcome. Focus on the process of asking, not just the result. Each ask builds skill, regardless of the answer. Celebrate small wins. Even getting a maybe is progress. It means you moved closer than the last no. Anchor in your why. Remind yourself why this ask matters. A strong reason makes it easier to keep going despite setbacks. Resilience is the armor that allows you to walk through rejection without breaking. Persistence creates power shifts. There's something interesting that happens when you persist respectfully. The power dynamic begins to shift. At first you're the one asking, but over time, your consistency builds credibility. People begin to see you as serious, dedicated, and trustworthy. Eventually, they start reaching out to you. Persistence transforms you from a seeker into a partner. 9. Turning no into negotiation. A skilled asker knows that persistence isn't just about asking again and again. It's about using each rejection to refine the request into something negotiable. Example, tapas. First ask, can you fund my entire project? Answer, no, too risky. Second ask, would you consider funding just the prototype stage? Answer, maybe. Third ask, what if I bring in another investor to share the risk? Answer, yes. Persistence plus flexibility equals success. 10. Persistence as identity. The greatest shift happens when persistence is no longer something you do but something you. When you see yourself as a persistent person, rejection doesn't feel like a dead end. It feels like part of the journey. Persistent people don't stop asking, because they know every no brings them closer to the ultimate yes. They don't quit because they believe in the value of their request and the worth of their voice. Persistence is the hidden key behind every breakthrough. It is the bridge between impossible and possible, between rejection and acceptance, between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one. When you keep asking, with courage, with respect, and with unwavering belief, eventually the world cannot ignore you. Chapter 8. Influence. Turning asking into persuasion. Persistence is powerful, but persistence alone is not enough. If you knock on a door long enough, eventually it may open. But true masters of asking don't just knock, they influence the person on the other side to want to open it. This is where persuasion comes in. Persuasion transforms asking from a simple request into an irresistible invitation. 1. Influence begins with trust. At the core of persuasion lies trust. If people don't trust you, even the most well-structured ask will fail. But when trust is established, your words carry weight, and your requests feel natural. A consistency builds credibility. Do what you say you'll do, every time. Authenticity wins. People know when you're faking. Be honest, even about limitations. Respect creates openness. Treating others with respect makes them far more willing to consider your requests. Think of trust as the soil. Without it, no seeds of asking can grow. 2. The psychology of persuasion. Human behavior follows patterns. If you understand them, your asks become more effective. Dr. Robert Cialdini identified 6 principles of influence that can supercharge your ability to ask. Reciprocity. People feel compelled to return favors. Give value before asking. Commitment and consistency. When people commit to something small, they're more likely to agree to something bigger later. Later. Social proof. People follow others. Show that others have already said yes. Authority. Demonstrate expertise or credibility to strengthen your request. Liking. People say yes to those they like. Build genuine rapport. Scarcity. People value what's limited. Frame your ask as a rare opportunity. Each principle is a lever. Use them wisely, and your asks carry more weight. Asking as a conversation, not a demand. One of the biggest mistakes people make when asking is sounding like they're issuing a demand. Influence thrives in dialogue, not in pressure. The best asks feel like natural conversation. Try, I'd value your insight on this project. Would you be open to helping me shape it? Notice the difference. One feels transactional. The other feels collaborative. Influence always leans on partnership, not force. Framing your ask for maximum impact. The way you frame your request changes how people perceive it. Later. Focus on benefits, not burdens. Don't frame your ask as work for them. Frame it as an opportunity. Example. Instead of "Can you invest in my business?" say, "Would you like to be part of a project that could bring great returns and impact lives?" Use positive language. Avoid words like problem or struggle in your ask. Replace them with opportunity, challenge, or possibility. Connect to their goals. Show how your request aligns with their values or ambitions. When you frame your ask in a way that resonates with the other person's self-interest, you increase the likelihood of a yes. 5. Storytelling as influence. Facts tell, but stories sell. A well-told story is one of the most persuasive tools you can use. Consider these two approaches. 8. My product saves money. A mother of 3 used this product and was able to cut her household bills by half, freeing up money for her children's education. The second example paints a picture. It engages emotion. People are more likely to say yes when they feel something. When you ask, attach your request to a story. Reading the room. Emotional intelligence in asking. Influence requires sensitivity to the emotional state of the person you're asking. Emotional intelligence helps you detect whether someone is open, hesitant, distracted, or skeptical. Watch body language. Are they leaning in or pulling away? Listen to tone. Do they sound curious, hesitant, or disengaged? Adjust accordingly. If they're hesitant, slow down. If they're curious, dive deeper. Influential askers don't just push forward blindly. They adapt in real time. The power of silence. One of the most underrated influence tools is silence. After making your ask, resist the urge to fill the silence with nervous chatter. Give the other person space to think. Silence applies subtle pressure, signaling confidence in your request. Often, the most powerful moment of an ask is not the words themselves, but the quiet afterward. 8. Creating a yes environment. Influence doesn't happen in a vacuum. You can set the stage for agreement before you even make your ask. Build momentum with small yeses. Start with smaller requests. Once people say yes a few times, they're more likely to agree to bigger asks. Surround with positive examples. Share success stories, testimonials, or endorsements that support your request. Position yourself as aligned. Show that your goals are in harmony with theirs. By the time you ask, the environment is already leaning toward yes. Confidence, posture, tone, and energy all shape how your request lands. 8. Speak with calm assurance, not desperation. Maintain eye contact without intimidation. Keep your body language open, not closed or defensive. People respond to energy. If you exude belief, they are more likely to believe too. 8. 10. Influence creates partnerships, not transactions. The ultimate goal of influence is not just to get a one-time yes, but to build relationships where saying yes becomes natural. When people see you as trustworthy, valuable, and aligned with their goals, they don't feel pressured. They feel invited. Influence is about creating win-win outcomes. Instead of asking, "What can I get?" the influential person asks, "How can this benefit both of us?" That subtle shift changes everything. Influence is where asking evolves into leadership. It's no longer about pushing for a yes, but guiding people toward a choice they feel good about. It is the difference between begging and inspiring, between rejection and partnership. When you learn to influence, your asks don't just get answered, they get embraced. Chapter 9. Asking as Power, Building Opportunity and Legacy. Up to this point we've explored how asking works: persistence, courage, strategy, and influence. But now we need to elevate the conversation. Asking is not just a tactic to get favors or opportunities. It is a form of power. Power not in the sense of dominance over others, but power in shaping your future, influencing your environment, and creating a legacy that outlives you. When you learn to ask with intention, confidence, and strategy, you stop playing small. You begin to see that every ask has the potential to open doors not just for yourself, But for others, asking is not a selfish act. It's a tool for impact, the hidden power behind every great success story. If you study the lives of extraordinary people, leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, innovators, you'll notice something striking. Their paths were not straight lines of self-sufficiency. Every breakthrough was the result of a bold ask. Oprah Winfrey asked for opportunities in media, even when she was told she didn't fit the mold. Elon Musk asked investors to believe in an idea as wild as private rockets. Nelson Mandela asked for unity in a country torn apart by division. And millions answered yes. These weren't small asks. They were transformative. Each request carried risk, but also power. It wasn't just about getting something. It was about creating a future that didn't exist yet. 2. Asking expands possibility. When you don't ask, you accept the limits of what already exists. You live within the boundaries set by others. But asking stretches those boundaries. It expands possibility. It expands possibility. If you never ask for a raise, you accept the salary given. If you never ask for mentorship, you stay in the dark. If you never ask for collaboration, you walk the journey alone. Every bold ask is like pushing the walls of a room further apart, giving yourself and others more space to move. Without asking, you shrink. With asking, you expand. 3. The courage to ask big. Small asks build confidence, but true power lies in asking big. Too often, people limit their asks out of fear. Out of fear. What if I offend them? What if they laugh at me? What if I seem greedy? But here's the truth. People respect big asks more than timid ones. A bold request signals vision. It tells others you are serious, committed, and not afraid to stretch. Imagine two entrepreneurs. Negotiate. Two entrepreneurs. One asks for $500 to keep their business afloat. The other asks for $5 million to revolutionize an industry. Which one excites people more? Which one inspires belief? Asking small may feel safe, but it rarely changes lives. Asking big can transform everything. 4. The ripple effect of asking. Every time you ask, you don't just impact yourself. You influence a chain of events. A student asks a professor for extra guidance. That guidance leads to a breakthrough idea. Years later, that idea becomes a company that employs thousands. A community leader asks neighbors to contribute time and effort. That small initiative grows into a movement that changes laws. A young professional asks for a chance to prove themselves. That chance becomes a career that inspires the next generation. Your ask may feel personal, but it creates ripples that move far beyond you. That's where the real power lies. Asking builds relationships, not just results. People often think asking weakens relationships, as if you'll seem needy or dependent. In truth, asking can deepen relationships. When you ask, you invite people into your journey. You give them the chance to contribute, to be part of something bigger. The strongest partnerships are often born out of a simple request. Can you mentor me? Becomes a lifelong bond. Can we work together on this? Becomes a lasting collaboration. Can you help me? Becomes the beginning of trust. When you ask sincerely, you're not just getting something. You're weaving people into your story. 6. Power is in the exchange. Power doesn't come from asking alone. It comes from creating value in return. The most effective askers understand that every request is part of an exchange. If you ask for mentorship, show gratitude by applying what you learn. If you ask for investment, deliver results that validate the belief placed in you. If you ask for support, make sure to give support when others need it. The power of asking grows when others see that their yes is not wasted. That's how influence multiplies through reciprocity. 7. Breaking the fear of rejection once and for all. Fear of rejection is the greatest obstacle to asking boldly. But here's what most people don't realize. Rejection does not take power away. It creates power. Every no is a test of resilience. Every rejection makes your next ask stronger. The people who become unstoppable are those who learn to stand in front of rejection without losing their voice. Consider this. Every no brings you one step closer to a yes. The world is not changed by people who never hear no. It is changed by those who keep asking in spite of it. 8. Asking as leadership. At the highest level, asking is not just about personal gain. It becomes a tool of leadership. Leaders ask not for themselves but for the collective. A leader asks their team to rise to a challenge. A leader asks their community to support a vision. A leader asks the world to believe in a cause. Great leadership is built on great asks. People don't follow because of commands. They follow because of invitations. They follow because someone had the courage to ask for more, from themselves and from others. Asking creates legacy. Finally, asking builds legacy. What you ask for determines the mark you leave behind. If you only ask for comfort, you may live quietly, but leave little impact. If you ask for wealth, you may accumulate resources, but legacy comes when you also ask how that wealth can serve others. If you ask for change, progress and possibility, you leave behind a world transformed by your courage. Legacy is built on bold asks, the kind that outlast your own lifetime. Sin, the ultimate power of asking. At its core, asking is about choice. You can choose silence, safety and comfort, or you can choose courage, vision, and power. Every time you ask, you affirm that your voice matters. Every time you ask, you shape your destiny. And every time you ask, you leave behind proof that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to speak anyway. Asking is not weakness. It is not begging. It is not a sign of lack. Asking is power. It is creation. It is the seed of every great dream ever realized. Chapter 9 is the turning point. You now see that asking is not just about getting more from life, but about giving more to life. Every yes you receive strengthens you. Every no teaches. Every ask builds your influence, your opportunities and your legacy.